Our next review, Christine, you want to review The Rose Code by Kate Quinn, which came out 2 years ago in 2021?
Yeah. Well, this book is an interesting subject. It's about code breakers that worked in the Second World War. And a lot of them were women. There was also a lot of like Cambridge professors and this kind of thing. So it's based in England, and it's actually in Bucks County, which is where my family actually came from.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it. Anyway, it's so it's mainly about these three ladies and how they get into this stuff in their war, basically. And it has a big twist to it because one of them gets into big trouble. They all kind of end up fighting with each other. Mm-hmm. And then, anyway, it's interesting. It's too long though. And the girls, they make me mad because they're kind of stupid and they're so revolved around men.
How old are these girls?
They're like, I don't know, 22, 20.
Okay, so they're women.
Well, no, they're not. They're girls. In the beginning of this book, they're dumb girls. And even though they have these really important jobs, it seems like the men are so important to them, which made me I didn't really like them. So I didn't really like the relationship parts about it. I think it was too long, but it was an interesting premise about the codebreakers. I don't want to spoil it. I don't really like romance in books anyway, so I didn't really care for that part, but there's an interesting story to it. So I kind of got bored in the middle, but then it picks up at the end again, and as to what happens, and then at the end of the book, she actually talks about the characters that are in the book. Some of them are real people, some of them are based on a couple of people combined, and how this was a real place and what happened and everything. But the problem was they're all sworn, they had to sign off on the Secrets Act. Mm-hmm. They weren't allowed to tell anybody, even where they worked or anything. Like, they weren't allowed to tell anybody. And the problem for the men was that they were not, of course, in uniform. And people were yelling at them and insulting them and calling them cowards because they didn't enlist. Meanwhile, they were working like 48-hour days.
What time period is this?
The Second World War.
Yeah.
In England. So it also addresses that a bit, like how the men were so, had such an issue because people would see them not in uniform and they weren't like over fighting with a gun, but they were fighting instead with pen and paper.
Yeah, well, there was the war on the home front. You still have to keep the country
people
going.
Didn't know that, and they weren't allowed to tell anybody because they had to sign this stupid Secrets Act. So, and it also addressed like husbands and wives actually worked there and they didn't know each other worked there because they weren't allowed to say. They were all separated. Anyway, so it was interesting in those respects. I'd heard about the Enigma machines. I think I've seen a picture of a couple, or maybe even seen one before in a museum.
Yeah, they've been in movies.
Yeah, but it's about that. But it's a lot about these relationships, these stupid girls and their stupid relationships. Anyway, I didn't like that part, but I liked the code breaking part. So I did enjoy it a bit, but it's not, I don't like mushy books. So okay. I didn't like that part.
So overall, you didn't like this book then?
I liked it enough. But for me, it's more like an 82 because I didn't like these girls were making stupid decisions and they were making me mad. I just wanted to say, you're being stupid girls. Stop doing that.
Okay. So would you recommend people check this book out?
It's okay. I'd rather
That's a ringing endorsement.
I'd rather listen to it. I think if you had to read it, it must be very long. I listened to it, and it still is interesting, and especially if you know anyone that's had issues when they've been in service, or they've seen some bad things and how they deal with it, that would be interesting for you. Mm-hmm. Or if you have a relative who did this kind of work, because it talks about that at the end, that Kate Middleton's grandmother worked there, and stuff like that. Anyway. It was interesting enough, but it wasn't really for me. Anyway, so...
Okay.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think about The Rose Code by Kate Quinn. If you've read it, let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, please.